Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. English News Edition. Here are the headlines. President Gele takes part in the special session of the meeting. Suspended for helping the Nigerian Boko Haram Mercy Bondi UNICEF action against hunger. Hello and welcome again. President of the Republic Ismail Umar Gele participated yesterday in the general debate session of the 74th General Assembly of the United Nations convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres. Several topics on the agenda of this meeting, which usually brings together the largest number of heads of state and government from all over the world: the eradication of poverty, access to quality education, peace and security, and the issue of climate change are among the main topics to be discussed during this meeting. The Republic of Djibouti is in line with all the themes on the agenda of the 74th United Nations General Assembly. Indeed, quality education is under the aegis of President Gele, an objective largely endorsed in Djibouti after the previous success of education for all, peace and security. Similarly, the fight against poverty and global warming, other themes on the agenda. The President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, delivered an important speech yesterday during the general debate of 74th General Assembly of the United Nations. On his occasion, the head of state reviewed the various points related to the MDGs, the objective of sustainable development, in particular health, education, climate, the fight against poverty. For more details, we propose to listen to him. Allow me at the outset, Mr. President, to congratulate you on your brilliant election as President of the United Nations General Assembly for its 74th session. We are convinced that your diplomatic skills, scholarship, and extensive experience will enable you to carry out the heavy workload of this August Assembly. In this regard, I would like to express to you my delegation's firm willingness and full readiness to cooperate with you and your Bureau during this session. Allow me also to express our sincere thanks to Mrs. Maria Espinosa and her team for the excellent work done during the 73rd session of the General Assembly. We will retain from your mandate this passion, this dedication to the promotion of multilateralism. Your statements have always inspired us. In a rich vocabulary steeped in culture, you have demonstrated that poetic expression and political thought are intimately linked. I would also like to express our deep gratitude to the Secretary General of the United Nations for the commendable actions and effort his specially representatives and all United Nations staff are making in very difficult situation environments around the world. Mr. President, today we are meeting in a worrying context in which multilateralism, which is based on international cooperation, is undergoing repeated acts. A crisis situation that is all the more paradoxical as it comes at a time when the interdependence between the countries of the world has never been so close. Global challenges therefore require global collective action. Multilateral action is vital. It's urgent. It is only collectively those solutions to the global challenges of poverty, inequality, and climate change can be found. And although the challenges all affect the varying degrees, the poorest countries are the most vulnerable because of their fragility. Ongoing geopolitical upheavals, rising tensions due to trade war and forecast in declining global economic growth, general risk and raise questions about our ability to mobilize the necessary resources to implement sustainable development objectives by 2030. These developments are to be feared at a time when, at the very moment of the adoption of this potentially transformative agenda, we were aware that we needed not only to adopt a radically different approach, but also to mobilize a volume of financing that is estimated in trillions. Thus, it is everyone's responsibility to pool resources while taking into account the quality of their impact on sustainability. Governments must improve the business climate in order to attract investment for sustainable development. The private sector must focus its efforts not on short-term investment but on long-term investments. It will also involve working together to find innovative solutions to mobilize funding for the MDGs. Mr. President, as early as February 2013, Djibouti introduced compulsory health insurance for the working population and a social health assistance program for all persons previously identified as having no income. Over the past 5 years, considerable efforts have been made to strengthen and extend this insurance to migrants and refugee population residing in Djibouti. Djibouti thus reaffirms its commitment to the commitments made in Target 3.8 under the Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030 to achieve health for all. Djibouti has also resolutely chosen to move towards an integrated, patient-centered digital health system in order to develop universal health insurance, the extension towards universal health coverage, and thus create the condition for a more efficient health information system. Djibouti is also determined, ladies and gentlemen, to fight against all inequalities and more particularly those related to gender by placing this objective at the heart of its political agenda. The government, through structural reforms, continues its essential mission to eradicate the political, economic, and social obstacles faced by women. Mr. President, climate change is the most threatening and serious challenge of our time. We have a special thought for our brothers to ancestors in the Bahamas who were devastated by the destruction that caused death and desolation on a scale never before known. We reiterate our gratitude to the Secretary General for the many initiatives taken to continue to draw attention to a phenomenon with catastrophic consequences. The extensive discussion we had at the Climate Summit made it possible to identify the point for concrete action. And that was the President Gele spoke in this second part of his speech about the regional and international situation. It is seen that he spoke of Somalia and progress that this country has made in terms of peace southern Sudan. Let's listen to him. Mr. President, the healthy movement towards peace in the Horn of Africa continues. Our country's determination to consolidate the gains made is growing stronger every day. Our conviction that a total and lasting peace in our region is possible and is becoming stronger every day. The latest good news comes from a neighboring and borderly country, Sudan. We welcome the success of the negotiation that led to a peaceful resolution of the crisis and the signing of a power-sharing agreement. In southern Sudan, the peace process is making encouraging progress. The various talks between President Salva Kiir and Mr. Riek Machar are a significant development. We note in particular the renewal of their commitment to form a transitional government by 12 November. Djibouti, as a member of IGAD, will continue to urge the parties to continue efforts to break the political deadlock and implement the commitments made. With regard to Somalia, despite the tension arising from the political dynamics associated with the election in the members' state of federation and the acts of violence perpetrated by Al-Shabaab, we are encouraged by the progress made in the economy and security fields. We must redouble our effort to help Somalia achieve its priority objectives, namely federal elections, increased security, implementation of ambitious economic reforms, and debt relief. We must do everything possible to ensure that the positive regional momentum contributes to effort to stabilize and implement the ongoing transition plan, thus helping to create an environment conducive to national reconciliation. We remain confident that relations between my country and Eritrea will improve further and that the outstanding issues will be definitely resolved. Djibouti remains deeply committed to peace and the promotion of sound and robust bilateral solutions with all its neighbors. We must work tirelessly together to accelerate efforts to promote regional integration. In this regard, we commend the dedication of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in bringing the views of the country and Eritrea closer together. Mr. President, terrorism represents an existential threat to the peace and security of our countries. We cannot accept that innocent civilians are being massacred, mutilated under false pretenses. The situation in the Sahel is of a great concern to us as Africans. We reaffirm our support and solidarity to all Sahel countries facing this serious danger and making considerable efforts within the framework of G5 Sahel. We urge the International Committee to mobilize the necessary financial resources to support these efforts. In this regard, we welcome the conclusion of the extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS meeting held on 14 September. Mr. President, we strongly commend the September 14 attack on oil installation in Saudi Arabia. This is a serious incident which is part of the opposite trajectory of the de-escalation advocated by the international community. In Yemen, we are extremely concerned about the deteriorating health situation and the increased risk of fragmentation of the country. We reaffirm our solidarity with the legitimate authorities of Yemen. Djibouti will continue to welcome Yemeni brothers and sisters. This sister country is facing an unprecedented humanitarian tragedy. Mr. President, the outsurge in violence in the occupied Palestinian territories is increasingly clouding the project for a two-state solution. This settlement constitutes not only a violation of international law, in particular Article 4.9 of the 40th Geneva Convention, but also the human rights of Palestinians. We also strongly commend Israel's recently announced plans to annex the Jordan Valley and the North Dead Sea to extend its sovereignty in the occupied West Bank. Mr. President, during the 74th session on June 20, the General Assembly will hold an election for 5 non-permanent seats on the Security Council for the period 2021-2022, one of which is allocated for Africa pursuant to the African Group's tradition of sub-regional rotation. This seat will be occupied by an East African state. Under rules of the African Union, it is indisputable that Djibouti should be the African Group candidate for the seat on Security Council for the period 2021-2022. The principle of rotation ensures that all African states, large or small, have equal opportunity to serve on the Security Council and other United Nations body. In light of the above and out of respect for the sovereign equality of states, Djibouti respectfully urges all member states to support its candidature for the Security Council for the period 2021-2022. If elected, Djibouti will relentlessly promote the obligation of all states to uphold international law in the maintenance of peace and security and advocate for recommitment to a multilateral rule-based international order. Mr. President, we must pool our efforts and resources, create safe and solid conditions in order to consolidate multilateralism. Failure is not an option. That is why we have support the initiative launched by Germany and France called the Alliance of Multilateralism. Thank you for your attention. And President Ismail Omar Guelleh met with the UN Secretary Antonio Guterres yesterday. At the meeting, the Secretary General of the United States stressed the importance of making recent progress in peace and security in the Horn of Africa by promoting regional integration and strengthening cooperation. He congratulated the Republic of Djibouti for its contribution to the promotion of peace and integration in the Horn of Africa region. The head of state thanked the Secretary General for the welcome extended him and his delegation. He then thanked her for recognizing Djibouti as peace of the region. Minister of International Affairs and Cooperation Mahmoud Ali Yusuf and Morning, this Kuwait Deputy Prime Minister spokesman, Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah. The main focus on the meeting was on the friendly and cooperative relations between the two countries. The meeting, which is two parts at the United Nations headquarters, brought together Djibouti's Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Djibouti ambassador in Addis Ababa, and permanent representative of the African Union, Mohamed Idris, and members of the team for our representation in New York. On the Kuwaiti side, Ahmed and Al-Shabaab assistant of the Minister of Foreign Affairs Mansour Al-Otabi, ambassador and Kuwait's representative to the permanent United Nations Ahmed Al-Shuraimi for the minister's office. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, sent a message of condolence to his French counterpart, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, on Thursday following the death of Jacques Chirac, the former President of the French Republic, yesterday. In his message, President Guelleh paid tribute to the memory of an unfortunate leader who left his mark on the history of his country. I am all the more moved by the death of Jacques Chirac because he was a friend of Djibouti who was still working to preserve and strengthen the exceptional relation between our country and France. President Ismail Omar Guelleh wrote, "With the death of Jacques Chirac, this passionate person for Africa, France, and the world are losing in sincerity politics stressed in Djibouti head of state." And now moving The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margeli, sent. Yesterday, the General Treasury Department invited all the banks in Djibouti to open stand in the National Treasury cash registers. The objective of this operation was to finalize the banking of salaries above 4,000 per month. In other words, people earning a higher wage or can open a bank account after having withdrawn their balance in cash for the last time. For the treasury countries, employees come to the stands and set up for his treasury by local banks to open a bank account. In an interview with us, the Deputy Director of the Treasury Department indicated that this operation will continue for 3 to 4 days until there are not more employees with a salary above 14,000 who are not yet banked. And now, Minfop Secretary General Mohammed Abdullah Mahyoub sponsored yesterday the closing ceremony of a series of training the trainers course for base teacher, pedagogical advisor, center trainees, as well as school principal and Minfop senior staff. The event held at the CFFEEF was attended by many Minfop executive and managers, including the executive director of the CFEEF, Mrs. Aisha Farah, UNICEF Deputy Representative, Mrs. Constance Kwaku, international expert, and the trainers and teachers. It should be noted that about 100 of seniors, Minfop managers, and CFFEF trainers followed 2 weeks of training led by international experts. The training course were covered several subjects. On 26 September 2019, the International School for Further Training of Judicial Police practice located at the Sheikh Musa Training Center of Gendarmerie National hosted the ceremony to finalize the internship for the first promotion of the Director of Investigation. This 4-week internship brought together interns from 16 African countries in the Indian Ocean. These are Gabon, Madagascar, Chad, Central African Republic, Mali, Benin, Cameroon, Niger, Togo, Equatorial Guinea, Guinea-Conakry, Cote d'Ivoire, Comoros Island, Senegal, Congo, and the Republic of Djibouti. This event was chaired by the Attorney General of the Republic and was attended by senior local foreign officials as well as the various heads of Djibouti's public institutions. In this word, the President of the promotion welcomed the initiative of the Republic of Djibouti to build a school of this size, which has brought together all the African countries that shared the French language. Guests and trainees were invited to a meal hosted by the Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie and the Lieutenant Colonel Hosh Roble Idli Conference Center. At the end, the trainees received their diploma in singing to meal hosted, and the end of today, this day was closed with traditional family photo.
حرسيانا ماي يبتلي أين نوكنك نردد التبادودا حرسيانا ماي.
In turn, the Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, stressed the permanent support of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, who spared no effort to bring this school into being. The Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, took the opportunity to congratulate all the trainees of the diligence and seriousness they have shown. And finally, the Attorney General of the Republic gave his speech in which he congratulated not only the trainees but also Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden for having undertaken the creation of this international school as well as for the excellence of the training provided in this course. The Prosecutor General recalled that the responsibilities of the Director of Investigation in his leading role in criminal proceedings. And now the prefect of the Unity Region, Mr. Adam Darar Musa, received on Thursday, 26 September 2019, in his office Mrs. Barbara Menzi, President Coordinator of the United Nations System and UNDP representative in Djibouti, accompanied by her colleagues from various United Nations entities. The interview took place in the presence of the President of the Regional Council of Dikil, Abdurrahman Yunis Arre, and the close collaborators of the prefect of the region. This first meeting was an opportunity for the new prefect of the Dikir region to become more familiar with the Millennium Development Goals of Sustainable Development in the various sectoral areas. Also, the first meeting allowed the two personalities to review ways and means of further promoting cooperation and exchange relations between UN agencies and the region's sovereignty institutions. At the end of their meeting, the prefect of the Unity region praised the UN agency's action in terms of sustainable development for the populations of the African continent and the rest of the world. And the Djibouti Agency for Social Development ADDS organized this Wednesday, September 25, the inauguration of the electricity network carried out as part of the regional project funded by the World Bank in the city of Obok, in the presence of local authorities, namely the prefect of the Obok region, namely Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Bonita, the deputy of the region Kamil Ahmed Ahmed, the head of Obok ESD sector Abdullah Ali Bihin, as well as the Director General of the ADDS Mr. Mahdi Mohammed Jama, and the Senior Civil Engineering Technician of ADDS Mr. Mohammed Afada. Indeed, as part of this project, ADDS inaugurated the electricity network with a volume of 4,400 kilometers of low voltage electricity network, 750 meters of medium voltage electricity, as well as the 70 public lightning poles. The district served our UNDP city center, Badaf Stopfer Plateau, under the leadership of the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity, in partnership with the other sectoral ministries. ADDS implements programs, projects, and sub-projects aimed into improving basic social service, in particular health, education, drinking water, support for youths, and basic sanitation, but also facilitates access to source of finance and micro-enterprises for vulnerable population, and encourage the participation of beneficiaries in the design and management of implementation programs and projects. More broadly, the project financed by World Bank is part of a refugee displacement response in the Horn of Africa, which covers 4 countries in particular: Ethiopia, Yemen, Sudan, and Djibouti. And we interviewed the Obak Regional Council representative, the second deputy of the prefect, and the deputy Kamil Ahmed in turn thanked the World Bank and the ADDS for this noble gesture. And moving now on the international news. International humanitarian agencies in Nigeria have repeatedly confronted the authorities, accusing them of saboting its effort to fight extremism and terrorism. Northeastern Nigeria is affected by a 10-year insurgency led by the militant group Boko Haram, which has killed 30,000 people and forced 2 million people to flee their homes. The UN has said 7.1 million people in the region need help in one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. On Wednesday, Mercy Corps issued a statement announcement that it was suspending its operation in 2 of states in northeastern Nigeria, hardest hit by Islamist insurgents, after the army closed 4 of its offices in region. A military source and a humanitarian workers of the organization speaking anonymously. Last week, the Nigerian army ordered the closure of the offices of non-profit Action Hanger, accusing it of helping terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and the Islamic State. Colonel Ado Isa, the Army's Deputy Director of Public Relations, said that Action Against Anger had been warned on several occasions that it was to help encourage terrorists by providing food and drugs. And this is it for this news. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful night.